welcome back. The world is into the second day of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and activists in South Africa and the world over are calling for a sober look at the number and age of the people who are victims of gender-based violence. The latest crime statistics released by the police ministry show that over 9,000 rapes were reported to police stations between July and September this year. When you look at domestic violence in the home, 13,000 assault cases were reported to police in that same time frame. Let's talk about this further. I'm joined now by Cristianne Wendler. She's head of programs for Shout It Now. Cristianne, a very good evening to you. Good to speak to you on News at Prime. Not a good topic to be discussing, just given the brutality of it all. And like many other activist organizations, you are quite fed up with the platitudes and the little action that accompanies that beyond this period.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. And we really appreciate these outlets to be able to bring a voice to this extremely important issue that, as you say, more needs to be done. Every year, the 16 days of activism rolls around, and we have to look back and say, what have we accomplished? And that's a chilling statistic that you just read out. 9,000 cases in a matter of months. When we break that down, that's over 100 cases a day. That's an individual's life who has been altered. That is a crime. That is a human rights violation that has occurred. And yet it happens every day. And we in general as society, we sit back and that is the norm. Gender-based violence is highly accepted and normalized in our societies. And you're absolutely right. We are tired. We need more action. We need more to change.
What would more action look like in a South African context?
It's a good question, and it's important to face the fact that this is an absolute epidemic. Globally, 1 in 3 women have been survivors of sexual and or physical violence. That's 33% of our global population, and unfortunately, we meet that statistic here in South Africa. So when we have a problem that is that large, there is no easy solution. There's no quick solution, and it's going to take a multifaceted approach of political will, financial resources, accountability. We have great laws in this country. We have a constitution that protects the rights of every individual in this country. And yet we see individuals not being able to come forward and report cases. We see people not being believed, people being told to leave police stations because it's your husband who you're reporting and therefore this is a domestic issue, go home and sort it out. These are all issues that we have to address. But all of that is after the fact. What we also have to do at the same time is prevention. Before it happens, we've got to talk to our children, boys and girls. We've got to have honest, hard conversations as adults. Where does this come from? Why is this existing in our society? And how do we start to change it? How do we stand up and say something when we see something that is wrong? If we see a policy at our company that is incorrect, that has a gender imbalance to it, how do we question that and ask our company to change that? So it takes all of us, and it's both on the prevention as well as on the treatment side after the violence has occurred.
And, you know, I referenced the age of victims of sexual violence in South Africa coming into our conversation. And it comes just a few months after we were all shocked when the Gauteng Education Department confirmed that thousands of children essentially have been impregnated. And when you look at that, and you look at the fact that there isn't a high level of reporting on what has been done to the men, who in all likelihood are likely to be older men and sexual abusers, there isn't much said about what has been done to them.
Correct. I mean, and it's not a guess. We have research that shows us that young women between the ages of 15 to 24 are driving. They are the highest number of new infections of HIV, as well as they have the highest rate of gender-based violence. And there's no coincidence to that. The young women are the lowest on the totem pole, if you will, in society. Young people in general have less access to economic resources, mobility, but then women in general have less access than men. They have less power. Society tells us we are less than men. And so when it comes to a relationship, if you are a 15-year-old young woman, we see young women coming infected with HIV on average 8 to 10 years older than them by men. And so if you are a 15-year-old girl with a 25-year-old man, there is a grave power imbalance in that relationship. So your ability to protect yourself, to, for instance, take PrEP, a pill of which taken once a day can prevent HIV infection, even your ability to go and take an HIV test or to seek services if you are in a violent relationship, all of those are greatly diminished because of the power imbalance that exists in that relationship.
I mean, I reference the schoolgirls who were in all likelihood raped and violated in other ways, and the fact that we don't hear about a high conviction rate in those situations. Some of them, we know, sexually assaulted by teachers and seniors in high schools, right? But a lot of victims, a lot of survivors still ask, in fact, what is the point of reporting if there's no follow-through, no prosecution, and when you go to a police station, you still encounter situations where you're sent home to, quote-unquote, talk it out and resolve it in the community, in the family.
Absolutely, and that has to change. And organizations like us, Shine It Now, we are there for individuals who come to us. We will go to the police station with you. And if we are mistreated, we will report that police station and we will go to another police station with you. We will ensure that you get access to justice, because that's exactly what has to happen. Every single person in this country, whether we wear a badge or not, we should want justice to be served. And so this approach of where individuals face secondary victimization when they go to try to report, even within their families. I mean, how many instances, many people listening right now will be able to think of somebody they know that it happened within their family. It happened in either, an uncle raping a child in the family, a relative, and the family protects the perpetrator, not the survivor.
But the rights of women are then, when we talk about sexual victimization, right, you also have a situation where women, yes, we can discuss what happens at police stations, but when young women sometimes present at clinics, there's still an issue with sexual reproductive health services where they are faced with unkind questions, often victim-shamed as well.
Absolutely. In any case, we need to hold everyone accountable to be able to serve with the highest level of regard. Whether you show up to Shout It Now or you show up to a government clinic, either way, you should be treated with dignity and respect and non-judgment. No one can know what the situation was unless they were in it. And so one of the most important things that anyone can do if a survivor comes forward, the first and most important thing to do is to believe that individual. It takes a huge amount of courage, because we know, and we see these stories every day, we know what happens to individuals who come forward. We, as a society, then tell survivors, don't come forward. And that makes it all the harder and all the more brave when people do. And so it's absolutely vital, whether you are a friend, a cousin, a sister, and in an organization serving as I am, the first and most vital step is that we believe the survivor and we do what we can to be able to serve immediately the health needs, as well as to then ensure any other needs are the individuals connected, whether it be economic resources, whether it be legal justice, reported a SAP station. These are all vital steps that need to be in place for any survivor who comes forward.
Cristianne Wendler, good to speak to you tonight. Thank you.